Mahmoud Farouk, first of all, congratulations on winning the Freedom Award from Templeton.
Thank you.
And people come to their discovery of free markets and the whole notion of freedom usually through different roads. You're not born that way. It's something you discover and learn to appreciate. And so to give people an idea of the road traveled, I'm going to just quote from something you wrote a few years ago. I was a child in Imbaba, one of the most populous, radicalized, and poorest areas in Cairo. The area did not have sewage drains, and the only way to dispose of household waste was through a private vehicle that came to the house every month or two to collect it. The neighborhood was brought together each week by Friday prayers. Despite their differences, all the sheikhs stressed one similar point in their sermons, praying for death to America. So it was not exactly a very friendly environment. It was poor. You're born into that. And Egypt is a very populous country. I think it's over 80 million people. And yet, you forged your center out of that and have won many awards for it. How did you come to that?
The idea comes to my mind in my early years in college. The first time I heard the word liberalism was through a friend in my college, and then I asked him, "What does this mean? What does this word mean?" And he didn't tell me much. And then back then I couldn't read or speak English. I searched the word in Arabic, and all what I found was sources from either left groups speaking about liberalism and Islamic groups speaking about liberalism. And
both of them against it.
Yeah, all the articles was basically against the ideas of liberalism, saying that this is a very bad idea and no one should believe in it, but no one tells exactly what is the idea is. And then I had a question in my mind, and I wanted to know what does this mean. And by time when I started to learn about the idea, I find that this is one of the things what I really want as someone who grew up in a poor area. One of the things, even when I talk with my friends back in Egypt, and most of them are left, and they said the poor people need help. I said no, we don't need help. We just need fair competition. We just to be in the market in a fair competition. We don't need anyone's help. We just have the same opportunity as anyone else, and then we can do it ourselves. We don't need help from anyone, from the government, from the rich people, from no one. We can do it if just we have a fair competition in the market, in education and everything.
And one day, this struck me when I read about it. I think it was a speech. It wasn't something you read. You went to hear someone who said Islamism and government do not go together, and politics should not be Islamic. And this was a completely revolutionary thought that was probably not allowed either in Egypt. Yeah. But it struck you. It fired your imagination.
Yes, as you were just mentioning, when I grew up, the main source of knowledge in the area that I grew up in Baba, comes from most of the knowledge comes from the sheikhs and the mosques. And when I went to college, I read a very small book that have this sentence. It said Sharia or Islam does not have anything to do with government. And that changed my mind with everything. And then I started to read and to learn more about the idea of liberalism and secularism. And since then, and in fact, in 2007, I started the first classical liberal organization in Egypt. And now we are we are kind of the first and the only think tank, classic liberal think tank in Egypt.
And at first, did they try to block you from founding it or starting it?
Yeah,
they didn't let you act on your own.
It was difficult. Working in ideas, in the field of ideas in Egypt isn't an easy thing to do.
No.
There are always challenges. So to register the organization, we stayed more than a year and a half going back and forth. Basically every week we visit the government offices and talk to them and convince them.
The censors.
Yeah. And so this is just to get the license to start. And then when you start, you get a lot of questions from the national security. Sometimes you receive threats.
Yeah.
Sometimes they hack your emails and they send people to your office to know what is going on, and sometimes they collect data. There are always the challenges that to work, the challenges that comes with working on ideas. It's something that comes together. So if one chooses to work in that field, most likely we know that we're gonna face a lot of challenges from the government, and also from other groups like Islamic groups or other groups that sees that the ideas of liberalism is a bad idea, and they don't want to do do modernity to Egypt. They are facing that, and we are fighting in that back.
And I remember reading a statistic when I was preparing another episode of this series that compared the number of books translated into Arabic for the Egyptian audience compared to the number of books translated into Arabic in other countries and so on. And it was incredibly small. That people had no access to basic major bestsellers on economics or on anything else.
Yeah, actually in early 2000 there was a report, I think comes from the UN, that says how many books the whole Arab countries translated since Al-Khilafah al-Osmaniyya, which is like, I don't know, maybe more than 1,000 years ago until now. And they compare it, and they found like in 1,000 years, the whole Arab countries translated the same amount that the Spain country, they translated 1 year. So,
oh my God.
So like a 1,000 year versus 1 year
in Spain.
And
so people were cut off from ideas, and it's hard not to jump to the conclusion that they therefore are easy to convince because they have no way to, so the imams and the sheikhs can convince them.
Exactly.
Just tell them exactly what to think.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And yeah, like they create things, and they just like put their ideas and their understanding of or the rejection of liberalism and freedom, and they tell people like this is what it looks like. It's you're going to live a life that have no morality. People will, and this is in regard to morality, and women will do so and so, and in regard to market, they said like the rich people will control everything, and the rest of the country will be very poor, and no one will have access to anything, and this is not the case.
No, of course.
I mean, I'm coming from that. When I talk to my family, and I remember one time I was talking to my brother, and he have a land, and the government always in Egypt repeat that people should not build houses on their farms, or like not farms, like an agricultural land.
Okay.
And he was repeating the same idea, but when I talked to him, I told him, this is your property. Do you think the government knows better than you on how you can use your property? You want to build a house for yourself and your family and your child. And then he started to rethink about it. And a few days later comes and said, hey, I thought about what you told me, and you were right. The government should not interfere in what I should do in my property. This is my property, not the government property.
And did he do it? Did he build?
Yeah.
And they didn't come in and close it, or
it's hard. Also, it's very restricted, and you have to pay a lot of to do a lot of like you basically have to get a license which is a way more expensive than a normal one,
and maybe a little bribe.
A lot of bribes, not a little.
And
with
so,
every step you have to. This is one of the major problems in Egypt. It's the informal sector, which Hernando de Soto wrote about it, and
yes.
He said the main challenges that face the third world countries, or countries like Egypt or Latin American countries, or that the capitalism idea did not succeed, or because of this dead money. Like, for example, like to go back to my brother example, he worked, I don't know, for 40 years, and then he had some money, and then he built this house, and then it's all money gone. He can't take a loan from any bank.
Right, and there's no real property title.
No title, no.
That the courts will enforce.
Yeah, and that the cost the government makes everyone pay. Even the land is them, the land is owned by them, and the building is owned by them, and they pay tax and they pay everything. the government don't give them title, and therefore they just like they work for years and years and years, and then all their savings end up in a house, and they have no money, and they have to work from the beginning again.
And that whole De Soto described it, the lack of paper documentation, rule of law, and so on, is a guarantee of poverty.
Yes,
it condemns people to poverty.
Yes, exactly, and that's why we're seeing, like for example, the informal sector in Egypt is. No one really knows the actual number, but it's the World Bank said it's around 60%.
That's the black economy.
That's the black economy, yes, and that's why you have a lot of people that they can't leave poverty and benefit from the reforms, and this is one of the things that we really advocate for in Egypt, that the government should work on that. The government should encourage people and make it easy for them to join the market and benefit from it, not to push them away.
Yeah.
And keep them in poverty, because this will not help either the country or the Egyptians.
And this was under Mubarak. This was before the Arab Spring.
Yes.
And the Arab Spring was 2013, if I'm not mistaken.
2011.
2011. Okay. When that happened, did things get worse? I mean, at first there was great euphoria. They were in Tahrir Square and so on. There was all the demonstrations and so on. But I don't think that lasted very long.
No.
And then what? Morsi came in, the Muslim Brotherhood came in?
Yeah, the Muslim Brotherhood came in, and then I would say the vast majority of Egyptians start to fear of the country that we knew. Even our culture, our traditions. I remember one day, first when Morsi came to power, he closed all the channels for any other political group to have kind of a dialogue. And then he issued a decree and said, this decree, whatever law that comes from him, from Morsi, the court cannot challenge it. No one can challenge any decrees or law that issued by me. So he basically said that I'm
dictator.
I'm a dictator, I'm a king of everything. No one should even ask whether this is legally or not. And then when someone challenged this in front of the Supreme Court, the supporters of the Muslim Brotherhood started to threaten the judges in the court, and surrounded the court and put the pictures of the judges everywhere. So to threaten them, if you said that this is unconstitutional, basically we're going to kill you and kill your families. And it was, this is one thing. There was many other bad things, but this is how it was, and it ends up that Egyptians goes out a year after and remove. Of course, there was a coup after that, but there was a demonstration, and then the coup comes out.
And meanwhile, you're doing your Center for Public Policy. Like any think tank, you're probably putting out reports, statistics, some polling data, and so on. First, under Mubarak, before the Arab Spring, were you harassed when you did that? Did they let you do that? Put out information?
Yes, we were harassed. Like under Mubarak, there was also this kind of security harassment. However, now it's much harder.
With al-Sisi?
Yes.
But I wanted to do the whole cycle. So you were harassed under Mubarak, but you could function?
Yeah.
Under Morsi, what was it like?
We were harassed, like, from the government and from the Muslim Brotherhood supporters, so both.
And therefore heavier control than before?
Yes.
And then al-Sisi comes in?
And then Sisi comes in, basically he created a very similar regime to Mubarak, but much harder. The security play a main role, and to win the trust of the government isn't that easy. Sisi himself said last week, Egypt issued a new law, enacted a new law to organize the work of civil society, and the law is very bad and very restricted. And even the U.S. government talked about it. The Vice President Mike Pence talked about it with the Sisi and asked him to look into the law.
Yeah. And
Sisi himself said that last week. He said that we made the law under the law goes out in a phobia from the state towards the civil society. So there was this mistrust since 2011 between the civil society and the state, and this is one of the things that my organization have been this one of the challenges that we had to deal with. And yesterday when I was speaking about what was one of the challenges, or when I felt that we are on the right track or doing things, when we had this mistrust between us and the government, and we worked for years and to show them that we really want the good for the country and for the people. We don't want to destroy anything. We don't want to overthrow anyone. We just want to reform. We want people to have good life and good opportunities, and economy comes back to, or goes in the right direction.
And do they come to you and warn you about the limits? Do they come to you and say, you can advocate this, free markets, let's say, but you cannot advocate freedom of speech on another issue? If you do, you're in trouble. In other words, do they control you? Do they try to give you warnings and so on?
They do that, and it's a matter of how you negotiate with them. So yes, they will say, like, for example, we work on freedom of press. Like, why did you publish this report? What do you want to say? What do you want? Why are you doing that? Why are you just like? Why are you care about that? And then they start to do some, like, sometimes they stop some events. So like, for example, if we have an event and someone will speak about something, they can cancel the event.
Really?
And if we have a conference in a hotel where there are, like, people coming and members of parliament and media and even government, they can cancel all the things. And they can also, in some other cases, some of our friends that work in civil society organizations, they sometimes go to the landlord and ask the person who owned the building to kick them out from their office.
Really?
So they use several.
That's a lot. That's getting pretty heavy.
Yeah. So they use several methods, and it depends on how you negotiate with them, and how would you do the things that I said that yesterday. That one of the things that we really believe in. First is that quote from Milton Friedman that said, like, keep the alternative alive and available. This is when we face such restrictions, we focus on that, to keep the alternative alive and available. We don't want to kill the alternative, and we don't want to keep it unavailable. We want to keep it alive and available, so everyone one day will have it.
The alternative being a free society, a freer society.
Yeah. And this is and on the other hand, in many cases when they say, like, don't work on this or don't work on that, then we see how we can do what we want without compromising our ideas, but how to get what is possible, not what is the ultimate goal. So the ultimate goal is, for example, freedom of press, or freedom of religion, or a free market. This is the ultimate goal. In some cases, you can't do it immediately. You have to take a step, and then another step, and then another step. So we look of what is possible, what we can achieve now, under all the elements that we are facing: the security, the community, the Islamic movements, and the regime. Everyone, how we deal with all of this. And create success.
And the way it unfolds with the Islamic authorities, they don't have the power anymore like they did under Morsi, but they have huge influence. Do you talk to them, or they don't even want to talk to you? We don't talk to them. We think that one. I would say our main. I just want to choose the correct word. It's our main obstacle is the totalitarian ideas in Egypt and also in the Arab world, which comes from Islamism, and so if we're going to if we have the authoritarian regime and if you have the totalitarian groups, then our main focus is how to eliminate and how to make the harm that comes from the totalitarian ideas less. Then liberalism would have more space in Egyptian society. And is there a chance that the Muslim Brotherhood could come back, or that things could regress?
I'll tell you that there was a study a friend have done this study. He based here in DC, in 30 countries about the Muslim Brotherhood, and he was telling me that in 30 countries the Muslim Brotherhood was able to come back.
Oh.
Even with all the no matter how strong and the regimes are. However, and his idea is basically saying that they rely on their, as I don't know if you know this or not, but they are like based on secret seals. So no one knows who are the members. Even here in the United States, the United States there is Muslim Brotherhood in the United States, but no one knows who they are.
Yeah, they're like a guerrilla movement.
You don't really who are the members, where they get the money from, who's doing what. This is not clear at all, even here in the United States. And also the social services that they provide to the people. I think I think this might be part, but the main reason that the Muslim Brotherhood comes back, or any other form of Islamism comes back to Egyptian society or any other society, is that first the field of modernity, that we failed to modernize our country. The modernity ideas that we failed to introduce it to our people and to our community. Second is that when you have a gap, when you have something empty, whatever, and the available ideas is either Islamism or nationalism or authoritarianism. You don't have any other. You don't have the third alternative.
No, that's right.
And that's what we're doing. We're basically creating the third alternative that would take from each place, and then by time we're going. This is the thing that we really want, and this is the thing that we really believe in. And one day we want our alternative, the liberalism and the liberal ideas, and modernity became the first option for Egyptian people.
And Hernando de Soto, who of course is Peruvian in origin, did his famous studies on how you bring about free markets through title of property and so on. He used Cairo as an example a lot, as if to say, well, if there's one place where it'll work, it's there. And when we look at the entire Arab world, it's practically nothing but totalitarianism and authoritarianism in a softer form in some countries, in a harsher form in others. Is Egypt really the best hope for the Arab world? That's where you work, and they've let you work, and you've won many prizes. Is Egypt really the only chance?
I would say Egypt is one of the chances. Egypt is the biggest country in the region. It has a lot of effect on other countries culturally, with language and with culture and with books and with Egypt has been always had this
leadership
influence on others. I think we're no longer as leaders as the country would, like maybe in the 60s or before, or even before that. Now there are maybe the Saudis or the Emiratis, but still Egypt is kind of a milestone in the Arab world. It's not a small country. It's a very big country. It's an important country. It leads. And we are on the right track on the economic reform. If we succeed in the economic reform, I think the country in a few years, will play a main role. And then the place to have classic liberal group in Egypt would play a main role in the future of the region.
And you might rise to political prominence. You're a reasonable man. It would be great if it was you instead of some of these other people.
Thank you.
So
I hope that the idea will take place. I don't think I'm a politician. I think we're providing the ideas and alternatives for everyone. And that one of the main goals is to have core of classical liberals that can lead the political group in the future. And this is one of the things that we're really working on at the moment.
Well, Mahmoud, we certainly wish it upon you and upon your country. Long life and good luck.
Thank you so much.
And congratulations again on the award.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you so much.